Rebecca is in the studios, so is Festus as well in the studios. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning, Jesse. How are you?
Good to see you
Good
today.
to see you as always.
I love the hugs. We should keep doing the hugs. Festus, good morning.
Good morning, Jesse.
How are you doing?
I feel very blessed this morning.
Great. I don't know why Juliana doesn't want to greet you guys.
Because good morning, Festus.
Good morning, Juliana.
You don't look. Are you okay?
A bit of fatigue, but I'm getting there.
I can tell.
Yeah.
Good morning, Rebecca. That green, my God. I need to talk to your designer.
Yes, Lee Charms,
Lee
everyone.
Charms.
Don't make him too busy. He needs to have time for me also.
Liz Shams was supposed to dress up Jesse the whole week. That's what we
I
are
think
doing.
he's still very busy
I
dressing
think he
up
turned
Rebecca.
out to be very busy. Yeah.
He's kind of busy. Yeah.
He's very
Love
busy.
that dress.
Thank you.
So, on our today's conversation, everyone as of now has the news. It was a Coldplay concert that exposed part of leadership that we never pay attention to. Somebody did write this yesterday and I read it. He said, what was supposed to be a concert turned into a public disaster. A CEO and his head of human resource caught on camera at a concert in a position that needed no explanation. The problem? They are both married to other people. Let's be clear. This wasn't just a personal affair. This was a professional betrayal with real consequences. He goes ahead to say, the CEO, the face of the company, the HR head, supposed to protect ethics and culture. Instead, they destroyed both. And now you ask yourself, how do employees trust leadership after that? How do you talk about values or policies with a straight face after that? How do staff feel working under people who lie openly? This is how toxic cultures are born when leaders play by different rules. Trust dies, confidence drops, gossip spreads, morale tanks, people stop caring, good people leave. And he says, let's not forget that families, the partners who supported them, only to be humiliated publicly. That betrayal doesn't just hit home, it hits the company's reputation too. Wow. Now, this is a conversation we want to bring today. When leaders make headlines for the wrong reasons, it's not just gossip, it's governance, all right? And Coldplay accidentally exposed these people. There was no intention. The dramatic resignation of the CEO of the astronomer after a personal scandal has left boardrooms, investors, employees asking hard questions. We've had this conversation as well with Juliana defending the CEO. In an age where reputations are digital, trust is fragile, can leaders' personal choices take or tank a company's financial value, or are we demanding too much morality from those at the top? I wanted Rebecca and Festus to help with this conversation. Rebecca, do you believe a CEO's personal misconduct should affect their professional position, even if the company's performance is very strong?
For me, this really comes down to what are the company values, first of all. You will see a lot of successful businesses out there with very morally gray CEOs. We see people that are very successful who don't have we can't find an ounce of integrity, right? We're looking at people like Donald Trump, Elon Musk. They're all doing pretty well, even though they're, questionable. Their integrity is questionable, I would say. For me personally, integrity is a really strong value, right? It's important for me that people have integrity, and therefore, if I have a business, I can't have someone leading the company who shows, that his integrity is questionable. So again, I tried to look up the astronomers' values. Actually, I tried to look for the company values. They don't publish them publicly on their website. So I didn't find anything there. But I have one of my business mentors likes to say that if he has someone on his team and he finds out that they're being unfaithful to their spouses, he's going to fire them immediately. Because if you can take, and if you think about this, right, you have someone who stood in front of their God and their government and made a vow to their spouse, and then they broke that vow. If their spouse can't trust them, how can you trust them, right? If you want to have trust in someone, they need to be a trustworthy person. For me, that also means that if you make a vow to be faithful to someone for the rest of your life, if you can't keep that, for me, that's like, okay, it shows me who you are as a person. It can still be that this person is really good at business, right? But for me personally, in my business, because integrity is a strong value of mine, it wouldn't work to have someone who doesn't embody that. So again, it really, for me, comes down to what are the values of the organization. You can absolutely have a successful business with someone who is just not faithful to their wives. And also, let's say that the company doesn't have a policy against, colleagues dating, right? If they don't have that policy, then it's still questionable. But if you do have that policy, you cannot have two of the executive leadership people being in a relationship with each other, regardless of whether they're married. You see what I mean?
I know Festus wears so many hats on this one, and I'd like to hear from him. Isn't this crossing boundaries? Who they marry, who they relate to? All you want as a company is performance, right?
I think it was the former Army General, I think Swanskoff, who said leadership is a potent combination of strategy and character. But if you must be without one, Norman Schwarzkopf, it was German American. He says leadership is a potent combination of strategy and character. But if you must be without one, let it be strategy. The reason I'm saying that is because numbers are not everything. Results are not everything. Performance is not everything, right? When you are a leader, you embody the company values, right? Like Rebecca was saying. And those values are what stands out at the end of the day. When we train entrepreneurs, the first thing we start with is, who are you as an entrepreneur? Because that will kind of roll into the business or into what the business is. And when you set values for the business, remember we talked about how when you're starting, you're alone. And most of the things are emanating from within you, from who you are, your personality, how you see integrity, how you see ethics, how you see values and all that. So who you marry, somebody might say, oh, who they marry or who they have fondlings with is not my business as far as they are producing numbers, until those activities begin to creep into the reputation of the business. Then it becomes your business. So I think that it's not a matter of should it, it's a matter of will it, and yes, it would, right? It would definitely affect public opinion, because you see, good numbers are not erased by public perceptions, or good numbers don't erase public perceptions. People think what they think, and when people see things, they talk, right? And when they talk, that affects your business, that affects employers, that affects customers, that affects investors. So it's one and the same. You cannot say, oh, I'm doing well with the numbers, forget about how I live my life, right? But a little caveat there would be, some people separate the business from their personal lives. They brand the business separately from their own person. So I don't know the founder of Java. Maybe because I'm not well read, but I don't hear a lot of talk about the CEO of Java but I hear a lot about the CEO of Tesla, because you cannot talk about Tesla without talking about Elon Musk, right? So whatever Elon Musk does directly affects Tesla. But maybe the CEO of Java could do something today and it might not affect Java Kigali, because is the brand is standing independent of the person. So again, in situations like this, we want to think about sometimes the brand is directly connected to the head or the face, and sometimes there is the CEO or there is the founder or somewhere who is very separate from the brand, right? We are really in the beginning stage, for example, of my business. So Festus and Apex for Excellence Consulting are very connected. Maybe Festus is even more known than the business, right? So those are some of the things we look at, but definitely it would affect, and people's perception matter, and it affects the business over time. So like she was saying, if you have made a commitment on one side, and you flaw on that commitment on another side, it still shows who you are as a person, right? Some people would say, I don't want to work with somebody like that because I can't trust him, because then trust is fragile, as you said. Other people might say, hey, as far as he's giving me the numbers, I'm making profit, who cares, right? But when those profits begin to dwindle because of what he's doing, then of course you begin to care.
It's Rebecca, who we normally refer to as the business doctor. And you love to deal with the inside of the entrepreneur, the heart of the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
There are personal values and then there are company values. When you have to speak to an entrepreneur, would you want them to separate?
I think it's really important that whoever is leading the company, they're able to embody the values of the business. Because if not, they're just not a good match. Right. And we can look at, again, these characters who are kind of a questionable integrity and see, okay, can you still have a successful business? It's absolutely possible. But it's very important that you are clear on what is okay in the business and what is not, regardless of what that is. If integrity is not your value, I don't understand it, but you can still have a successful business that runs like that, right? Because you can still find an audience for it. You can still find partners that are loving it. You know, you see Elon and Trump making great friends for a short period of time. You know, they can still do some really great things together. It's not like Tesla is gonna fail tomorrow because Elon is cheating on someone. Like that wouldn't happen. And that being said, I mean, honestly, I had never heard of the astronomer until all of this. All right. Honestly,
PR.
you can twist this, you can spin it, you can create something from it that actually where this would end up being a really interesting and positive impact on the business. You know, you can jog around with it and find more PR opportunities with it. But me personally, again, integrity is so important. And if integrity is important for your business, it needs to be important for the people who are running your business, because if not, they won't be able to embody what it is that you're delivering. And if someone is showing up in a way that is going against the company values and what the company says, this is important to us, and then you have someone leading the company who goes out and acts against it, it reduces trust in the whole organization.
You see, Juliana, over the days, she's had a position where she talks about double standards, says everyone does all these kind of things every day. It was just a misfortune for him. Juliana, to be seen on camera.
Yeah.
You still defend that?
So I'm 100% people who know me know I'm always against office romance. Like, that's exactly not my thing. I don't like it. I discourage it 100 times. But I was defending him on the other side, not on the business side of it. I was defending him that what that man did, everyone is doing that. It's just unfortunate that he was caught on
even
camera.
more.
Or even more. And it's a lot. And I was very specific. I said a lot of married men and women are doing these things behind closed doors that we don't see. Unfortunately for him, he was caught on camera. And because he holds a very big position, and so the world is going to crucify him and crucify as well. But do I believe that they should have been doing that because they are working together? No, they shouldn't be doing that to keep what integrity, what she was saying. But
is it about working together or the fact that they have partners already?
The fact they also have partners. I totally don't. I disagree with that. You know, they call me the polygamous person here. I disagree with people who have more than one partner in life. But then I don't like the fact that the world is judging him and her in that manner when people are doing worse things. Married people are doing worse things than that. And that's where I was coming from. It's just that unfortunate he was on camera and the world saw that. But there are so many married men and women who are doing these things that actually these guys are doing out there.
But I think,
and that's where I was coming from.
I have really high standards for my people. You know, if you want to be in my circle, if you want to be a friend of mine, if you want to be in part of my business, if you want to be one of my partners, I have high standards for you. And just because someone else, like my dad always used to tell me, just because someone else jumps off a bridge doesn't mean that you have to do it, right? Oh, if everyone else does it, then I can do it. I think it's dangerous to say that just because other people have low integrity and other people are not trustworthy and other people are okay with cheating on their spouses, if you're in my environment, you don't get to do that. It's not okay with me, and I'm going to hold you to a really high standard if that's the case. And I think in general, it really comes down to who do you want to have running your business. I wouldn't just want anyone to run my business. I would want someone who shows up and has as high standards as I do.
Is it when it's a social impact driven business or when it's profit driven business?
Any. If I'm gonna trust you, you better be trustworthy. If you show me that you can't be again, you made a vow in front of God.
Emphasis.
And you still broke it. That means there's a
it.
possibility that you will still break the same vows that you make to your juniors.
High
If you
possibility,
if you
very
make a
high.
promise to me, it's not going to be in front of God.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not going to make you swear to me in front of God. But if you can't keep a promise to your spouse, who's supposed to be your life partner, the most important person in your life, you took that vow deliberately. You knew what you were doing. And then you're still out here and your spouse can't trust you. I will never trust you.
But there are scenarios where people have failed in homes and families, all right? And we talk about this every day, that we fail in our personal finances, but we can be the greatest CFOs for companies, right? Two different worlds. We fail with our personal relationships and we're able to be the greatest HRs of companies, where everyone celebrates what we have brought to the company as a contribution. We fail in leading our homes and we lead companies to the greatest heights. How come?
Well, I think also I want to make it clear that just if someone makes a bad decision in their private life, I don't believe that they deserve all of the judgment in the world. I think we're very, very quick
That's
to point
exactly my concern.
fingers.
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, we all have flaws, right? We all have flaws. But I think it comes down to, again, what is the value of the company? And as I said, I haven't been able to find them for the astronomer. It might be that the astronomer doesn't have values such as integrity and trust and these kind of things in their value, in their behavioral framework. And if they don't, it's not up to me to say... Is
that excusable then?
It's not about it being excusable. It's about deciding who are you going to be as a company and what is going to be important for you as a company. Because we do see companies that don't really have strong values who are still successful. Now, would I recommend that personally? No. I think it's important to have strong values. I think it's a really big part of leadership. And I think it's important that the C-suite especially embody those values.
Should we judge people from what they do in their private life? Should we judge them
by the KPIs given
by
by
the
company?
KPIs?
So, but the thing is, but I think
performance.
it's
Seriously, like, because you see, what I would like to think is what I do at my workplace and how I behave. I mean, how I behave outside my workplace should not actually entirely affect what I do at my workplace.
But it also depends. What are you doing at your work?
You know, I mean, I could be the kind of person that I'm probably, you know, I have the other life. I'm outside. I'm in a different world. When I'm outside my office, I hang out. I go out, and then people get to judge me because of what I do the other side, to what I deliver.
Yeah, I think what I would say regarding that is, really, we should not judge people on their private life until that private life begin to creep into the business.
Yes.
Right? If it affects the business, if it's so there's the personal part of it, right? Like Rebecca is saying, me as a person would not do this, right? That's entirely understandable, right? I have my own values as a person, and if you must come within my cycle or my circle, I begin to, I hold you to certain standards. However, in the business world is a business world, right? On a flat surface, as far as I'm performing and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, my private life is my private life and my business life is my business life. Until
it affects
the private life affects the business life. Because the reason why this matters is because now there are investors, there are employees, there are senior, junior management, there are customers. There's everybody who is now talking about this. And now all of those people have perceptions, they have values. And that is going to affect the business positively or negatively. Some people will be like, oh, I don't care, right? As long as my returns are coming. Somebody else will say, no, I cannot have myself investing in a business led by somebody like this. So I'm pulling out my investment. Somebody else would say, hey, you know what, right? If he's cheating on his spouse and I'm supporting that business, it means I'm supporting someone who cheats on their spouse.
Adultery.
So I'm not going to be a part of it. So it becomes mixed emotions and mixed perceptions. But the reason why we are having this conversation is because most times what you think is private is not so private.
Yeah.
I feel that the only private thing is the thing in my head. The moment I bring it out and there is another 2 eyes, 1 nose, and 1 mouth that encountered what I think or what I'm doing, it's no longer private, it's public, because your boo has a boo.
I love you guys. Listen, can a company, because we've read in the news so many stories of the big names at the top involved in scandals, can a company fully recover after such reputational hit? You didn't know about Astronomer. Now you know about them. The video is circulating everywhere. AI is manipulating it. Everyone is using it. We're having the conversation here today, many miles away from where it happened from. Do you think a company is able to recover from such a reputational hit, or do certain scandals leave a permanent mark?
I think you can absolutely recover. And I think also if the Astronomer is PRing and spinning this well, they're going to come out even stronger than they were before.
How do you spin it? That we have sent away the CEO?
I mean, they've all put down. I've been asked to resign. That's another way of spinning it around.
Yeah.
But it's one thing. But also, if you come out and you say really strongly that this is what we accept and this is what we don't accept, I mean, I'm pretty sure that woman from HR is still there. I went and looked at.
They both were asked to resign.
They were okay. Because I looked at
the HR should be the first one to go.
Actually,
Why?
why?
Why the first one?
But I looked at their leadership on their website. Yeah. They have about 10, 12 people in leadership, and then they have a board of directors. And there was only one woman among all of these people, and that was the head of people. And that I think it might be the same woman. If not, they found someone who looked a lot like her. I honestly, I didn't spend a lot of time with
They have not edited the website.
They've definitely changed the CEO, right? It was a new name. So I think you can turn things around. And I think, as I said, so many more people know about the Astronomer than before. There is something, people say that there's no such thing as a bad PR. I don't really fully agree with that. I mean, when we're looking at this chateau in Kivu, right? I think that I'm not sure they might need like a whole new management team.
No, they have to just bring everything new and totally build everything. Now because they already messed up already.
And the RDB has now told them that they're not allowed to operate.
No, they're temporarily closed.
They're closed.
First of all, according to what we're reading, they're operating without a license, right? Secondly, a client just complains about something and gives you feedback, and boom, you sue them straight up, take them to RIB. You look for a lawyer, not look for a PR company to deal with you. So those ones already messed up there. They caused that on themselves.
But if they do bring in a whole new team, they can take that business and turn it around.
Absolutely, yes.
They can. I think it takes a lot to fully destroy a company, but with the right leadership, you're able to turn things around. I absolutely think that the Astronomer has an opportunity here to go out and really be strong on their values, let the world know what is okay and what is not okay for them. Because just telling a CEO, oh, you have to step down, if it's because oh, you're making too much noise, we can't really be bothered with this. But if they then come out instead and they say, listen, we have these values and they're really important to us, and this leadership team just did not embody that, we're going to work much harder to make sure that these are the values that we stick to. And then they make sure that this behavioral framework that they're developing is actually being implemented properly into not just, the communication, but also in the internal culture. right? Because as you said, it's very much about when does the private life merge into the public life. And the higher you are, if you're a C-suite, if you're an executive leader, then those two go very, very closely knit together. And then it is whenever you have something in your private life that can't make it to the public without staining the business, how open are you going to be to let people just manage whatever shady stuff they're doing, instead of saying you should not be having shady stuff that we can find. It just shouldn't be there. You know, so the conversation is, should you have a private life? Should you not have a private life? What is it? For me personally, if I have a business, you gotta stick to the values. You gotta embody them. And if you don't and not embody them somewhere else, you know, not in my space.
I think what I would say regarding that is it depends on the nature of
the business.
No, the issue. Recovery or not recovery, because I don't quite remember the full story, but when I was in university we read a story about Enron. The Enron case. I think you're familiar. I think it was a financial scandal.
It was fraud,
yeah. So, and that it ate into the whole leadership, into the entire fabric and structure of the business. There was no recovery for them. It was a total collapse.
Because they were illegal, fully illegal business.
But I think that's a very huge comparison, like fraud with a relationship.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It depends on the nature,
yes.
Right? At the end of the day, reputation is stained. However, either ways. So yes, there are some stains that you can easily clean. There are some stains that maybe you come out, transparency, accountability. I used to tell people vulnerability is strength, right? Come out and say, hey, this happened and this and this and this is what we're doing to be able to curb the situation. However, there are some stains you don't just wash with Omo. They stay, brother.
Use jig.
Even jig can help you, right? And sometimes people just, you know, they move on, right? And they're like, oh yeah, I mean, it happened and it happened. But I think something like this is not as, I'm not trying to weigh down, but it's not enough to collapse the company.
I think so.
Yeah.
I also think
Yeah.
so. If they have a very good PR team.
Yeah.
They can
But there are some things, there are some reputational scandal that I think recovery could be all. Even if you recover, you just remain a shadow of yourself. People move, people make new choices, and so I think the safe way to go is avoid as much as you can. Like, let the private and the public align as much as possible when you are at the top there. When you know that what you do can influence how people react to the brand.
Quick question. Should boards, should investors have a say in a leader's personal conduct if it potentially threatens brand trust?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
To what mile?
I mean, they are board, they are the investors, right? They are the ones injecting funds. They are the ones managing. So if they don't have a say to an extent, then it means that you're putting money into something you can't control, you can't manage, right? So I think not just the investors, employees, customers, everybody who has a stake in the business should have a say, of course, to a certain extent. Again, what I would add to that is, I've seen situations where they fired the CEO, the board fired the CEO and installed someone else. So if the board can get to a point where, I mean, Jobs was fired at some point, Steve Jobs, right? Where he went to start something entirely new. I mean, he succeeded, but much more.
Blessing in disguise.
Blessing in disguise. But I think that, yes, they should have a say. You cannot say, what is the purpose of the board? Accountability, I believe.
Yeah.
Right? Holding you to your values, holding you to your promises, checks and balances. That's the purpose of the board. So if the board or the investors don't have a say, then there's a one-man show. And where there's no accountability, growth is questionable.
Well, I think for me, from how I got trained and all that, I got to know that even when I'm working at Royal FM, I am a brand ambassador. Either way, I'm a brand ambassador of this particular brand I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
And I have to represent this brand even when I'm outside. So whatever I do outside there will actually affect the brand.
Definitely.
And you as Jesse, if I did something outside my life, outside there that has nothing to do with what I'm doing here, and affects the brand, you eventually have to come and talk to me. It's very important because I still represent the brand when I'm still outside there.
Should there be a system to monitor, like with monitoring where the CEO is? I know when you go to open a bank account, they would ask you for next of kin. When you go to ask for an ID or citizenship, they'll ask you for all these details. Should the boards also, upon appointing a CEO, we want to know who is your official wife, and then put systems to monitor? When you go in club, when you go to the club, we want to know if
There is a camera
did you go
somewhere
with your wife or are you with somebody else?
No, I think that's corporate policing, and I don't think it's a policing. It's a moral policing structure. It should be more of like a risk management and accountability stuff, right? I think I'll let Rebecca say something about it.
I think it's important to have policies. I think it's important to be very clear on
Thou
what do we
shalt not
accept.
go out with another woman who is not your wife.
But honestly, if you're looking at Rwanda, adultery is literally illegal. You can be put in prison up to 2 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know that.
More reason you should hold on getting
It is,
married.
and I know that we had the whole discussion when that mayor was fired, and because only the spouse can actually report you, right? No one else can come and report. It's only the
And
spouse.
so the spouse has to monitor.
So it's up to the spouse, and also for the spouse to decide: do I want
Do I
to
wanna do
report this person? And then the prosecutor will take over from there and say, are we going to put this person in prison or not? And when we had that with this mayor of, I don't remember which one, but someone who was he lost his job and he was put in prison for adultery,
I
right?
thought it was
Adultery.
mayor over-
For adultery.
It is.
And then we had the discussion, should this be a government issue? Is this something that the government should be involved in? But as is right now, adultery is illegal. Would you be okay with your executives to commit crime in any other area? Right? So I think, especially looking at Rwandan context, are we okay with people committing crime? And I'm not saying that that any organization here should go out and be policing or even put into the company values that thou must, follow the law. I'm not going to say that.
Thou must remain faithful.
Thou must remain faithful. Thou need to be, committed to the value
But
made.
as a CEO, you're an example. You're supposed to
Exactly.
stand as an example
You
for
are
the
the
standard.
embodiment
Yes.
of the business. If you run the business and I question your personal values, I'm going to question, are you able to maintain a positive, non-toxic culture in your organization? If you don't have high standards for yourself, how can you have high standards for your staff? If your staff doesn't have high standards, how can I trust that you're going to be delivering with the quality and
promise.
excellence that I want to have? So it's more about the embodiment for me. It's more about, do I trust you as a business? And I am going to, because it's human nature, I'm going to be judging the business based on who leads it.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to assume that your values is going to be impacting the company values. So for me, again, it's personal opinion. It's not to say that everyone needs to act like that. But for me, I'm going to look at, do I trust the people who lead the company or not? And that's going to be impacting whether I want to engage with that business, if I want to buy their products. And it's not that every time I go buy something, I look up the CEO. Right. That's not what it is.
Let me
Right.
first Google. the
Let me
CEO.
Google. Okay, do I want to
Is he
buy this
married?
water? Right. Yes. What is this person about? That's not what
Yeah.
it is. But then when you do have these cases where it's being broadcasted to the whole world, that could have been prevented if someone inside let's say the board or someone else who found, I think people knew about this. I don't think this was super hidden. I think they even said that there were more people from the organization at this concert, right? So they were obviously
But also
seeing
the
what was
neighboring
going on.
lady who was next looked like they knew the couple. Like they was
Yeah.
looked
But
normal.
you were in a
there was
concert.
a rumor ongoing about the relationship. So people knew until only to
didn't have
confirm with
proof.
the screens. Yes.
I think code of ethics, talking about policies, like Rebecca is saying, I think code of ethics is important for every company, right? It must be clear what is acceptable and what is not, right? And spelled out in clear terms so that everybody knows, okay, this is allowed, this is not allowed. That's one. Number two, I think to also go ahead of things like this, there must be, PR put in place. If something like this happens, how do we address it as a company? Because sometimes jumping right? And then like trying to make decisions in the moment might lead you to make the wrong decisions. But if you pre-plan that if something like this happened, this is how we'll go about it. How much transparency do we present? How much accountability do we present? How much ownership do we take, right? And what is the disciplinary measures that we take to be able to make sure that at the end of the day, the company stands out, because this is an individual at the end of the day. An individual should not have enough power to destroy an entire system or an entire company. So I think those little systems can be put in place so that if something like this happened, they go ahead of it. Let's say stepping down was already part of the code of ethics. If they came out and say, hey, we have these standards, and one of the first things we do if something like this happens is that we really relinquish the position of the person, then we are like, oh, actually, you guys have values, right? We may not trust the person, but the company survives.
Yeah, and the system, the processes, the policies, absolutely.
I know of one country that had a whole ministry within the government, Minister of Ethics and Integrity. But also it registers amongst the leading or top countries for corruption. Sometimes...
Which continent?
Morally, on this continent we're living on. Morally not there, Lisa.
Sometimes even the presence of policies, ministries, even police departments to just watch over what happens, it just becomes too difficult. Even as I say this, I say greetings to all the CEOs in this town. If we were to hold ourselves to the highest standards, what does this city really look like?
You mean the city of Kigali?
Yes.
Honestly, I think the Rwandan government is pretty good at enforcing high standards.
Moral standards.
Even so, I constantly see people in the yellow papers from one day to the other. Oh, we discovered that you were doing some shady stuff. Even in your personal life, you're out immediately. I think that compared to, I don't have a lot of countries to compare with, right? But in Denmark, for example, where I was born and raised, I feel like they are a lot slower at implementing and enforcing the policies that they put in place compared to here. Sometimes it's like you just wake up to a news story, like, what in the world
just happened overnight?
How did they find out?
Because honestly, Paul Kagame and his government, they have really high standards compared to not just other countries on the continent, but in the world.
Yeah.
Right? In the US, they're happy to put a criminal as a president, right? It was like, oh, he's a criminal,
he was
but you know.
holding them by the what?
Let's not go there.
And he still became the president.
He became the president. I'm like, and how do you expect a person like that to have any sort of integrity? And he obviously doesn't, right? But I think that when you look at our president here in Rwanda, he has very, very strong values, and he's very good at enforcing them as well. You know, there's not a lot of BS going on here. There's not a lot of being able to, let me try again. Probably there's, before we know about it, there's been a couple of warnings, maybe. Other times he's just like, no, I'm not accepting this. You're going to wake up tomorrow and you'll be fired, and it's, a lot of people can talk about whether they feel like that's too harsh. Honestly, I think he's setting a great standard when it comes to value-based leadership. I can find and think of very few leaders who are as strongly value-based as Paul Kagame is. Yeah,
I think what I would say is there's a lot of significance in what Rebecca is saying in terms of, man, for example, I didn't know adultery was a crime.
Now you know.
Now you know.
Well,
all people I thought you knew.
I know, right? You would think so. But I think that beyond that, we should, like you were talking to the CEOs, we should really embody the values and the type of integrity and ethics and character that we want to see, right? So that it's not just... I feel that we respond to punishment a lot, right? If you do this, this will happen. We respond to consequences. And when people respond to consequences, you can't tell the authenticity of why they're doing what they're doing, right? But as CEOs, as business leaders, I think beyond consequences, it should be choice, right? I choose to be this, And I have these values because I believe in them, because I feel that they have a positive influence on my business, right? Not just because, you see how, I don't know if they wrote names of talkatives in your school.
They did.
Back then. But my name was always on the list.
It had to be.
Me too. Even when I never talked.
Even,
my
yeah,
name was
like they just assume he has talked.
Yeah.
Festus has, and my prefect used to add DP, double punishment. Like, you talked, your name is already there, then you talked again, right? But so you find that the class is quiet, not because we want to be quiet or we understand the value of being silent and reading your books and, you know, going through the physics concept or whatnot. It's because we know that there is that teacher who is going to, you know, lash you, right? And that's why at the end of the day, when we get to leadership, we want to be policed. When we get to the high places, we're looking for which eyes are on us. I went to a university where we didn't have invigilators when we took exams. We had the honor code system. You signed to say, I'll be integral and I'll be ethical. And nobody looks at you during exams. But you've made a promise, so you are held accountable to that promise. And it's in Africa, and people thought it would not work. Right, but Ashesi is one of the greatest universities, right? So you realize that it becomes a choice. Let us get to a point where we've made a choice to be responsible, a choice to be ethical, and to have integrity, and everything becomes easier. I know it's not easy in the beginning, especially when everybody else is, you know, mushy. But if you decide to be the one, shine in your corner. Rebecca shines in her corner, Jesse shines in her corner. Before you know it, every corner is lit. And that is what the city will look like.
18 minutes after 9 o'clock in the morning.
Have
Our
you
time
thought
is
of
fast
being a
spent.
motivational speaker at some point?
Of course he is. Why you ask? Thank you so much, Festus and Rebecca, for bringing the insights. I mean, hold us to the highest standards, even as we do our work here. I mean, Rebecca, we need to talk.
Rebecca has already told you.
Kigali. Yeah, it's a good day to